Greetings viewers and welcome back to my channel. And today's video I've got another Caline Technologies pedal power supply that I will be reviewing. It is their newest model, the CP-205. So for full disclosure, Caline has sent me this power supply and a few others that I've been reviewing on my channel. And this is the most recent version that has come from their product lineup. And a quick unboxing is what you see here. You get the power brick itself. You do get the wall adapter. I'm here in the United States, but yours might look different. It is an output of 18 volts and 1.5 amps. You get your instruction manual, and then you get a bunch of adapter wires to connect to your pedals. A quick look at the main unit. We have 7 outputs here that are 300 milliamps rated, and then we have one output here rated up to 500 milliamps, and these are all at 9 volts. In an effort to keep this video from getting too long, feel free to check out my other videos on Caline's pedal power supplies. Their isolation and circuit design is very similar from model to model. Varying features, usually the number of outputs and the varying amperage output ratings are usually what are different across the different models. But if you're interested in how that's done, especially on the isolation part, so you can prevent ground loops, check out this video in the corner. I've done a very in-depth on how that works, but I'll take a look inside just the same so you can see. And if there's any questions, you can certainly write a comment down below. So let's dig into it. So the first thing I want to look at really quick is the packaging. You'll see on the packaging it mirrors the graphic on the outer casing of the unit. But what I find interesting is that there was supposed to be a USB 2 amp output jack here, but it's not present on the 205. It is present on the 206 and the 207. But if we take a look at the inside here, look at that. The USB is actually on the board. And this board is version 2.0, and it was designed on September 4th, 2020. Now, I see this in electronics all the time. Oftentimes you get, because of production costs, they will make small changes to the board. And the cost of adding a 5-volt USB 2 amp is not that expensive. You really only have this one chip here, right here, that operates the 5 volts here. And for the cost of removing it and changing the design, it's usually not worth the investment of re-engineering it. So they just leave it as is, and then they'll sell it at a lower price point saying, hey, it doesn't come with the USB. But hey, I really like the graphics on this. I think it looks pretty cool. But if you really want to have the USB accessibility, you could, drill a hole here to get access to it. Or the 206 and the 207, which are the larger models of this particular board design, is already got the cutout for the USB on here. So I just found that interesting. Looking a little more closely inside, we can see the larger switch mode transformers inside for isolation, and these are larger than what I have found in the CP-206 and 207, and that's likely because they need the bigger transformers to support the higher amperage output of the various output stages here. They're all 300 milliamps rated, and then one at 500 milliamps rated. And it's the same circuit design as the 206 and 207. The DC comes in here. It's then converted back to AC. It'll induce on the primary, and then the secondary will then power all of the linear voltage regulators for these various output stages. And there's some filtering components underneath the board, some inductors, some capacitors, snubber networks. Basically, those are the components that get rid of any of the switch mode noise or any other ripple voltage that might be present on that isolated DC once it's been rectified. This is the test that you normally see a lot of other YouTube videos do, and what we're doing is we have one side to the tip of the first output stage, and what we're just looking for is, does the meter register any DC resistance between the barrel tip negatives or the grounds between the output stages? And it does not look like there is any DC resistance, or if there is a DC resistance, it's extremely high, beyond the mega ohm range. And that is good because that's essentially isolating each of these outputs. So there is no common ground bus on any of these outputs. And there wouldn't be any ground connection between the input and the output because of those transformers inside. So I'm very happy with what I see from a design perspective. I think Caline has done a very good job at the circuit design for isolating the incoming power, rectifying it, filtering it with their wall adapter here, and then further isolating it in the main power brick here. And they've since upgraded a lot of their newer pedal power supplies coming out with separate secondary windings to make sure that all of these outputs are not having a common ground plane with each other. On some of the older ones, like the Juice Box, the DC-10, that one actually was ganged because they had smaller transformers. They didn't have as many windings. I'm seeing that a lot of the newer models coming out have really true isolation, and it's isolation from, again, the wall power, and then also isolation internally so that each of the outputs operate independently of each other. Well, guys, my final thoughts is that overall, this is a great power supply for the money that these are sold at. And you do get some moderately high amperage output capability, and you do get true isolation from each of the outputs from each other, and also isolation from the incoming wall power. There's a lot of filtering components that goes into it. Far better than what you would get with the performance of a typical daisy chain power supply, for example. Now, 300 milliamps is far better than 100 milliamps. Most analog pedals are going to be under 100 milliamps anyway. The digital pedals are going to be closer to 400, 500 milliamps, so this may not be the best power supply for that, so keep that in mind. But 300 is going to be more than plenty for most of the pedals out on the market, and you have that one extra high output if you really needed it. This is 9-volt output only. There's no 12 or 18 volts in there, so keep that in mind as well. If there's any questions or comments on this particular pedal power supply, please leave a comment below. If there's any questions, I've included Caline's contact information in the description. They do answer emails, and they are available on Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp. There's a lot of different ways that you can get access to their customer service. And of course, if there's anything else that I missed, feel free to leave a comment on that. Thanks again for watching, guys, and supporting the channel. Cheers.